Jake Morrison stood at the massive window of Nexus Prime, looking out at the stars. The space station was bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came and went like busy insects. For 6 months, he had called this place home. For 6 months, he had tried to make peace with aliens who seemed to hate humans. A meeting room behind him buzzed with quiet talk. Colonel Lisa Hayes checked her tablet again, reading the same reports she had studied all morning. Dr. Ryan Clark sat in the corner, making notes about the different alien species they would face today. All 3 humans knew this day would change everything. A soft chime filled the room. The aliens were ready. Jake turned from the window and straightened his suit. He had worn his best clothes today, hoping to show respect. It seemed silly now. The aliens did not care about human customs. They barely saw humans as intelligent. "Ready, sir?" Lisa asked. Her military training showed in the way she held herself. Even in diplomatic clothes, she looked like a soldier. "As ready as we can be," Jake replied. He walked toward the door that led to the Grand Assembly Hall. His heart beat faster with each step. The hall was enormous. Thousands of seats rose up in circles around a central speaking area. Most of the seats were filled with creatures Jake barely understood. Some looked like giant insects. Others seemed to be made of living crystal. A few appeared to be floating. Pools of water with lights inside, in the center of it all, sat the High Council. 5 species that ruled the galaxy. They had been in power for thousands of years. Today, they would tell humanity its place in their perfect order. Jake walked to the human section. Only 20 seats had been given to Earth. Around them, other species had hundreds of representatives. The message was clear. Humans did not matter much. High Counselor Vextar of the Zephyrians rose from his seat. He was tall and thin, with blue skin that seemed to glow. His 4 arms moved as he spoke, making gestures that Jake did not understand. "We gather today to welcome humanity into our great community," Vextar said. His voice was translated by machines, but Jake could hear the coldness in it. For too long, this young species has been left without guidance. Today, we offer them the gift of our wisdom. Jake felt his jaw tighten. Gift, as if humans had begged for this. The crystalline representative spoke next. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. Humanity has shown concerning traits. They expand too quickly. They fight too often. They do not understand the delicate balance we have maintained for millennia. Which is why, added the Aquarian delegate, its watery form shifting colors, we must provide structure, rules, limits. That will help them grow in the right direction. Vextar raised one of his hands. A holographic document appeared in the air above the assembly. Jake could see it was long, very long. "The Treaty of Galactic Integration," Vextar announced. "Carefully written to ensure humanity's peaceful entry into our community." Jake started reading the floating words. His blood grew cold with each line. Humanity would give up 70% of their colony worlds. The aliens called it responsible resource management. Humans would be moved to designated areas. For their own safety, of course. All human military forces would be reduced by 90%. The remaining ships would be monitored by alien observers. Human weapons technology would be shared with the Council. For the good of galactic peace. Human. Children would be educated by alien teachers. Human culture would be guided to remove violent tendencies. Human art, music, and literature would be reviewed before being allowed. The list went on and on. Every part of human life would be watched, controlled, and changed. "We understand this may seem overwhelming," Vextar said, his tone like a parent, talking to a child. "But humans are still young, still learning. You cannot be trusted to make these decisions alone." Around the hall, Other alien representatives nodded or made sounds of agreement. Jake saw a few species that looked uncomfortable, but they stayed quiet. Dr. Ryan Clark leaned forward in his seat. Jake knew the scientist was angry. Ryan had spent years studying alien cultures, hoping to build bridges between species. Now he saw how little his work had mattered. Colonel Lisa Hayes kept her face blank, but Jake noticed her hands. They were clenched into fists. "The treaty is generous," continued the crystalline representative. "Your species will be given probationary status. In perhaps 1,000 years, if you prove yourselves worthy, you may earn full membership. 1,000 years. Jake almost laughed. They wanted humans to live as prisoners for 40 generations. The Aquarian delegate's colors shifted to what Jake had learned meant pleasure. "We have prepared comfortable worlds for human relocation, away from the busy trade routes where you cannot cause problems. You will be much happier there." Translation: they were being exiled to worthless planets, where they could be forgotten. "Of course," Vextar added, "we realize humans have emotional attachments to their current worlds. This is another sign of your immaturity. In time, you will understand that attachment causes suffering." Jake stood up. Every alien eye in the hall turned to him. The weight of their attention was crushing, but he did not sit down. "The human delegation requests time to study this treaty," he said clearly. Vextar's expression did not change, but Jake caught something in his eyes. Amusement? The alien had expected this. "Of course," Vextar replied. "We are not unreasonable. You may have 48 hours to consult with your leaders on Earth. But understand, Ambassador Morrison, this offer will not be extended indefinitely. The galaxy has been patient with humanity's independence. That patience has limits. The threat was clear. Accept the treaty, or face something worse." "We appreciate the Council's patience," Jake said, choosing his words carefully. "We will give this treaty the consideration it deserves." Again, that look of amusement from Vextar. The alien probably thought Jake was grateful for their generous offer. The session ended with formal words and ritual gestures. Jake went through the motions, but his mind was already racing. He had to get word to Earth. President Amanda Foster needed to know what humanity was really facing. As the aliens filed out of the hall, Jake caught snippets of their conversations. They were already planning for humanity's integration, discussing which human worlds had the best resources, talking about human genetic samples for their research. They spoke about humans like farmers discussing livestock. Dr. Ryan Clark appeared at Jake's side. "Did you see the Valdorian delegation?" he whispered. Jake looked where Ryan was pointing. A group of tall, gray-skinned aliens sat in a distant section. They had not spoken during the session, but Jake noticed they had been watching everything carefully. "They looked worried," Ryan continued. "Not happy like the others. Scared." Before Jake could respond, Colonel Lisa Hayes joined them. Her face was grim. "Sir, we need to talk, privately. I just received a coded message from Admiral Pete Johnson." Jake's heart sank. If Earth Command was sending secret messages during peace talks, something was very wrong. They made their way back to the human quarters. In silence, the corridors of Nexus Prime suddenly felt threatening. Every alien they passed could be an enemy. In their secure room, Lisa activated a jamming device. The small machine would block alien listening devices for a few minutes. "Admiral." Johnson's message was short, Lisa said. "Long-range sensors have detected alien fleet movements. Big ones. Ships are gathering in systems near human space." Jake felt the floor drop out from under him. How many ships? Thousands, from multiple species. They started moving 3 days ago, right after we began these talks. The pieces fell into place in Jake's mind. The peace talks were a distraction. While humanity's diplomats sat here being lectured, Alien armies were surrounding human space. They never intended to let us choose, Ryan said quietly. Accept the treaty, or be conquered. Either way, humanity loses. Jake walked to the window. Again, outside, alien ships continued their busy dance around the station. How many of them carried weapons? How many were already positioning for war? 48 hours. That was all the time humanity had left before the trap closed completely. Jake activated his secure communicator. It was time to tell Earth the truth. The peace talks were over before they had truly begun. Now came the hard choice: surrender. Everything that made humanity human, or fight against impossible odds. As he waited for the connection to Earth, Jake made his own choice. He would rather die as a free human than live as an alien's pet. The galaxy was about to learn what that meant. President Amanda Foster sat in the Situation Room beneath the White House. The secure chamber was filled with the most important people in human government. Admiral Pete Johnson had his hands folded on the table, his face showing the weight of bad news. General Sam Carter looked tired, like he had not slept in days. Dr. Kate Robinson clutched a thick folder of papers. The wall screen showed Jake Morrison's face from Nexus Prime. Even through the secure connection, Amanda could see the stress in his eyes. "Tell me again what they want," Amanda said. Jake's voice came through clearly, despite the distance. "They want to control everything, Madam President. Where we live, how we think, what we teach our children. They call it integration, but it's really slavery." Amanda had read the treaty 3 times. Each reading made her angrier. 70% of our colonies? Gone. They say humans are too aggressive to manage so much space. We would be moved to 12 designated worlds, all of all. Them far from major trade routes. Admiral Johnson leaned forward. "Jake, what about their military positions?" Colonel Hayes mentioned fleet movements. "It's worse than we thought, Admiral. Our intelligence sources report alien ships gathering in at least 15 systems. They're not even trying to hide it anymore." General Carter shook his head. "How? Many ships are we talking about? Conservative estimate? 5,000 combat vessels. Probably more." The room fell silent. Humanity's entire fleet numbered less than 800 ships. The aliens had them outnumbered 6-1, and that was just what they could see. "They planned this from the beginning," Amanda said. It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am." The peace talks were theater. They wanted to look reasonable while they surrounded us. Double quotes. Dr. Kate Robinson had been quiet until now. She opened her folder and spread photos across the table. "There's something else. Something that might explain why they're doing this." Amanda looked at the images. They showed stone ruins on various human colony worlds. Strange symbols covered the walls. The architecture was unlike anything she had seen. "These ruins have been found on 17 human colonies," Kate explained. "We thought they were just ancient buildings from some dead alien race. But I've been studying them with the translation computers we got from early contact with the Galactic Council." Kate pointed to one symbol that appeared in every photo. "This symbol appears hundreds of times. It took me months to figure out what it means." "And," Admiral Johnson asked, "destroyer?" The room temperature seemed to drop. Amanda stared at the photos with new eyes. "You think these ruins are connected to humanity somehow?" "Not just connected. I think they were built by our ancestors." General Carter laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Kate, humans have only been in space for 200 years. These ruins are thousands of years old." "Not our immediate ancestors," Kate said patiently. "But I believe humans are descendants of whoever built these structures. The genetic markers we've found in the ruins match human DNA in some very specific ways." She pulled out another set of papers. "There's more. I've been analyzing the alien languages, looking for patterns. The Zephyrians have an old word, Kethmorin. It means the ones who came before and brought silence. Silence? Amanda asked. Death. Destruction. The crystalline hegemony has similar words. The Aquarians talk about the great emptying in their oldest stories. Admiral Johnson was putting the pieces together. You're saying humans are related to some ancient enemy of theirs? I'm saying humans are descended from a species that once dominated this galaxy. A species that the current powers feared enough to remember in their oldest nightmares. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. And now they think we're going to do it again. It would explain everything, Kate continued. Why they're so afraid of human expansion. Why they want to control us so completely. They're not just worried about our military or our technology. They're terrified of what we might become. The wall screen flickered, and Jake's face appeared larger. Madam President, there's something else. I've been in contact with some of the minor species here, the ones who don't have much power in the Council. What did they tell you? This has happened before. The Council has dealt with other species they considered dangerous. The Valdorians were once spread across 50 star systems. Now they have 3 worlds and no military. The Kethi used to be a major power. Now there are less than 1 million of them left. Amanda felt sick. They destroyed them? Slowly, carefully, always with treaties and agreements, always legal. The galaxy watched it happen and did nothing. General Carter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Washington, D.C. continued its normal life. People went to work, children played in parks, and nobody knew that humanity was about to face extinction. What are our options? Amanda asked. Limited. Admiral Johnson admitted. If we fight, we lose. They have too many ships, too many resources. Even if we win some battles, they can replace their losses faster than we can. What about allies? Jake's voice came from the screen. The minor species are sympathetic, but they're too scared to help openly. The Valdorians hate the Council, but they barely have enough ships to defend themselves. Dr. Kate Robinson looked up from her papers. There might be another way. Everyone turned to her. Amanda felt a spark of hope. What do you mean? The ruins, they're not just monuments. Some of them are still active. We've detected energy readings from sites on 3 different worlds. If humans really are connected to whoever built them, double quotes, you think we can use them? General Carter asked. I think they might respond to us in ways they wouldn't respond to other species. The genetic markers I found suggest some kind of biological lock, technology that only activates for the right DNA. Amanda felt her heart racing. What kind of technology? Unknown. But if our ancestors once controlled this galaxy, their technology would have been far ahead of what we see today. Admiral Johnson was already thinking like a military man. How long would it take to investigate? I have teams ready to go. Give me 2 weeks, and I'll know if this is real or just wishful thinking. Amanda looked around the room at her advisors. These were the people who had to make the hardest decision in human history. Accept slavery or fight a war they could not win. Jake, how long do we really have? The aliens expect an answer in 36 hours. But based on fleet movements, I'd say we have maybe a week before they're in position to attack. That's not enough time, General Carter said. It has to be, Amanda replied. She turned to Kate. Doctor, you have your 2 weeks, but we need preliminary results in 5 days. I'll do my best, Madam President. Amanda stood up. Admiral Johnson, I want our fleet ready for combat. Don't make it obvious, but prepare for the worst. Yes, ma'am? General Carter, start evacuation plans for our most vulnerable colonies. If this goes bad, I want to save as many people as possible. Already working on it. Amanda looked at Jake's image on the screen. Jake, I need you to buy us time. Can you drag out the negotiations? I'll try, but they're getting impatient. High Counselor Vextar keeps hinting that their offer won't last forever. Do what you can? And Jake? Start looking for other options. If there are species out there who hate the Council as much as we're starting to, maybe we can find common ground. Understood, Madam President? The connection ended, leaving the room in tense silence. Amanda looked at each of her advisors in turn. This information doesn't leave this room. As far as the public knows, we're still negotiating. Everyone nodded. Amanda knew they were all thinking the same thing. In a few days, humanity would either find a miracle or prepare to fight for survival against impossible odds. Dr. Kate Robinson was already packing her papers. I'll need access to the sites on New Terra, Kepler Station, and Proxima Colony. Whatever you need, Amanda said. Kate, I need you to understand something. If you're right about this, if humans really are connected to these ancient ruins, then we're not just fighting for our freedom. We're fighting to discover who we really are. Kate nodded seriously. I understand, Madam President. But I need you to understand something too. If I'm right, if we really are the descendants of this ancient race, then the aliens have good reason to be afraid of us. What do you mean? The ruins cover multiple star systems. Whatever happened to the original builders, they controlled territory bigger than anything we see today. If that power is still out there, waiting for the right people to claim it, double quotes. Kate did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Everyone in the room understood. Amanda walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were gathering to destroy humanity. But maybe, just maybe, humanity had allies they did not know about. Allies who had been waiting for thousands of years. Get to work, everyone, Amanda said. We have a species to save. As her advisors filed out of the room, Amanda remained at the window. She thought about her daughter, safe in college, who had no idea that her future was being decided by ancient ruins and alien politics. In 5 days, they would know if humanity had a chance. In a week, they would know if there would still be a human race. Amanda Foster had been president for 3 years. She had dealt with economic crises, natural disasters, and political scandals. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime with steady steps. Behind him, Colonel Lisa Hayes and Dr. Ryan Clark followed quietly. In Jake's hand was a small device that contained humanity's answer to the Galactic Council's demands. It had been 47 hours since the ultimatum was delivered. For 2 days, the aliens had waited with growing confidence. They expected humans to accept their generous offer of slavery. Today, they would learn how wrong they were. The Grand Assembly Hall was fuller than Jake had ever seen it. Word had spread throughout the galaxy that the young human species would formally join galactic civilization. News crews from hundreds of worlds pointed their cameras at the human delegation. This was history in the making. High Counselor Vextar sat in his elevated chair. All 4 arms relaxed in a gesture of satisfaction. The crystalline representative's body sparkled with what Jake had learned was their version of happiness. The Aquarian delegates' colors swirled in pleasant patterns. Around the hall, thousands of alien representatives waited to witness humanity's surrender. Most looked bored. A few seemed pleased that another dangerous species was being brought under control. Only a small group in the far section looked worried. Jake recognized them as the Valdorians, Kethai, and other species that had once been powerful. They knew what was really happening here. Ambassador Morrison, Vextar's voice carried across the hall. We trust your leaders have seen the wisdom in our proposal. Jake walked to the center speaking area. The cameras focused on him. His next Words would be broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. High Counselor, members of the Galactic Council, representatives of the many species gathered here today, Jake began. His voice was calm, but it carried clearly through the hall's sound system. 47 hours ago, you presented humanity with what you called a peace treaty. You asked us to consider your generous offer to guide our young species into galactic civilization. Vextar nodded, his expression showing polite attention. Around the hall, aliens prepared to witness humanity's formal acceptance of their place in the galactic order. We have considered your offer very carefully, Jake continued. We have studied every word, every requirement, every condition you have placed upon us. Jake paused and looked around the hall. His eyes found the news cameras, knowing that his words were being heard on Earth, in human colonies, and across the galaxy. And we have discovered some interesting things during our consideration. For the first time, Vextar's expression changed slightly. The alien's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. Jake activated the device in his hand. Above the assembly, holographic, displays appeared showing star maps, ship positions, and classified communications. We discovered that while humanity's diplomats sat here listening to lectures about peace, your military forces were surrounding our space. The hall erupted in surprised sounds from hundreds of species. The news cameras swung toward the displays, broadcasting the evidence to the galaxy. 5,000 warships from 12 different species, all positioned to strike human colonies. Jake continued, his voice growing stronger. Ships that began moving 3 days ago, before these peace talks even began. Vextar stood up, his forearms waving in agitation. This is highly irregular. The human delegation has no right to present classified material in this forum. Classified? Jake asked. You mean secret? Hidden? Like the real purpose of these negotiations? More holographic displays appeared. Communication intercepts between alien commanders. Orders to prepare for integration operations against human worlds. Plans to relocate human populations to containment. Worlds. We also discovered something else interesting, Jake said. Records of previous integrations. The Valdorians once controlled 50 star systems. The Kethai had a mighty fleet and dozens of colonies. The Helian Republic ruled the space empire for thousands of years. Jake gestured toward the small groups of these species in the distant sections of the hall. All of them went through the same process. Peace talks, generous offers, treaties that promised protection in exchange for just a few small concessions. The hall had gone completely quiet. Even the news crews seemed stunned by what they were hearing. And now look at them. The Valdorians have 3 worlds and no military. The Kethai number less than 1 million. The Helian Republic is down to 1 planet and cannot even build their own starships. Dr. Ryan Clark stepped forward and activated another device. New displays showed archaeological findings from human colonies. But the most interesting discovery was this: ancient ruins on 17 human worlds. Ruins that our scientists have finally decoded. Images of the mysterious symbols appeared above the assembly. Jake watched as recognition dawned on some of the older species representatives. The symbols tell a story of a species that once ruled this galaxy, a species that built cities on thousands of worlds, a species that the current galactic powers fear so much that they remember it in their oldest nightmares. The crystalline representative's body had gone completely dark. The Aquarian delegate's colors had shifted to deep red. Around the hall, the more ancient species showed signs of fear. You call them the destroyers, the ones who brought silence, the great emptying. Jake's voice carried across the silent hall. But they had another name for themselves. They called themselves the Free Ones. Jake paused, letting the implications sink in. Our scientists have confirmed it. Humans are their descendants. We carry their genetic markers. Their ruins respond to our presence. Their technology awakens at our touch. Panic began to spread through the assembly. Representatives from hundreds of species started talking at once. The careful order of the Galactic Council was dissolving into chaos. "This is impossible," Vextar shouted above the noise. "The destroyers have been extinct for 10,000 years. Have they?" Jake asked quietly. His voice somehow carried over the chaos. Or did they just go to sleep, waiting for the right moment to return? Colonel Lisa Hayes stepped forward. "Captain Danny Rodriguez of the human stealth ship Ghost Wing, please transmit your current position." A new holographic display appeared. It showed a sleek human vessel in a star system that should have been empty. But it was not empty. Ancient structures orbited the central star, structures that were clearly not built by current galactic civilizations. "The Kepler Archive," Dr. Ryan Clark announced. "One of 17 sites we have discovered in the past week. Sites that have been dormant for millennia, but are now awakening." The display zoomed in on the structures. They were massive, clearly artificial, and they pulsed with energy that current galactic science could not explain. "We found something else at these sites," Jake continued. "Records, databanks, the true history of this galaxy." The hall fell silent again. Every alien present was hanging on Jake's words. "We learned about the real destroyers. They were not conquerors. They were liberators. They fought against an empire that enslaved entire species, that crushed freedom wherever it tried to grow." Jake looked directly at Vextar. "They fought against the ancestors of the current Galactic Council." The accusation hung in the air like a weapon. Around the hall, the subject species began to murmur among themselves. For the first time in thousands of years, someone was challenging the official history. "The Council has ruled through fear for 10 millennia, Jake continued. "You have convinced the galaxy that the free ones were destroyers who had to be stopped. But the truth is simpler. They were the last free people in a galaxy of slaves." Vextar's 4 arms were shaking with rage. "This is propaganda. Lies designed to justify human aggression." "Is it?" Jake asked. "Then why are your fleets surrounding our space? Why did you demand we surrender our colonies, our military, our freedom? Why do you treat every species the same way you treated the Valdorians and the Kephai?" Jake activated one final holographic display. It showed a star map of the galaxy, with different colors showing the territories of various species. "Look at this map. Really look at it. 5 species control 80% of galactic space. 100 species share the remaining 20%. Thousands of species have no space at all." The map rotated, showing the full scope of the Council's dominance. "You have built the very empire that the free ones died fighting against. And now you want to add humanity to your collection of controlled species." Jake turned to address the full assembly, not just the Council members. "But we have news for you. Humanity chooses freedom. We choose to stand with every species that has been crushed under your rule. We choose to be the free ones you have feared for so long." The hall erupted in chaos. Representatives from subject species were on their feet, some cheering, others arguing. The council members were shouting orders that no one was following. Above it all, Jake's voice carried clearly. "Humanity withdraws from these negotiations. We reject your treaty. We reject your authority. And we call upon every free-thinking species in this galaxy to join us." Captain Danny Rodriguez's voice came through speakers throughout the hall. "Ghost Wing to Nexus Prime. We are detecting massive energy signatures from the Kepler Archive. The ancient structures are fully active now." Dr. Ryan Clark smiled grimly. "It appears the free ones left us more than just ruins. They left us these tools to finish what they started." Vextar pointed one of his arms at Jake. "You are making a terrible mistake, human. You think? Dr. Tony Blake stood before the massive structure that had emerged from beneath the surface of New Terra. 3 weeks ago, this had been an empty field outside the colony's main city. Now, a gleaming tower of unknown metal reached toward the sky, humming with energy that made his instruments go crazy. Status report, he called to his team. Dr. Sarah Kim looked up from her scanner. The energy output has increased by 30% since yesterday. Whatever this thing is doing, it's getting stronger. Any response to our attempts at communication? Tony asked. Nothing direct, replied Dr. Mark Wilson. But watch this. Mark approached a section of the tower that was covered in the same symbols they had found in the ruins. As he got closer, the symbols began to glow brighter. It's responding to human presence, Tony said. Just like Dr. Robinson predicted. 3 weeks had passed since Ambassador Morrison's speech at Nexus Prime. 3 weeks since humanity had declared its independence from the Galactic Council. In that time, 17 ancient sites across human space had awakened. Towers, platforms, and structures that defied explanation had risen from worlds where humans had built their colonies. And they were all responding to humanity. Tony's communicator buzzed. The voice of Admiral Pete Johnson came through clearly. Dr. Blake, we need an update. The alien fleet is only 2 days out from Earth. Admiral, I think we're about to get some answers. The tower has been trying to communicate with us. We just figured out how to listen. Tony walked to a control panel that his team had built. It connected human computer systems to the alien technology through a complex web of cables and energy conduits. When he activated it, the tower's humming changed pitch. Suddenly, the air above the tower shimmered. A holographic figure appeared, tall and graceful, with features that were almost human, but not quite. The figure looked around, seeming confused. Status. Report, the figure said in perfect English. Tony's heart raced. You can understand us? The figure focused on Tony. Language patterns analyzed. Local inhabitants identified as descendants of the free ones. Genetic markers confirmed. The figure paused. I am the guardian of this facility. I have been dormant for 9,847 standard years. Guardian, I'm Dr. Tony Blake. We need help. The species that rule this galaxy now are trying to destroy us. The Guardian's expression grew serious. The Council races still maintain control? You know about them? I am programmed with a complete history of the Free One civilization. The Council races were our primary enemy. We fought them for 3,000 years before. The Guardian paused. Before we were forced to implement the final protocol. Dr. Sarah Kim stepped forward. What was the final protocol? The preservation of our species and technology until such time as our descendants could complete our mission. Tony felt excitement building in his chest. What mission? The liberation of all sentient species from Council domination. The Guardian gestured, and new holographic displays appeared around the tower. They showed star maps, ship designs, and weapon systems that were far beyond anything Tony had ever seen. Your genetic patterns indicate you are ready to inherit our legacy, the Guardian continued. The awakening of the facilities confirms this. You have chosen to resist the Council, just as we did. Admiral Johnson's voice came through the communicator. Again, Dr. Blake, we're detecting massive energy surges from all 17 sites. What's happening? Tony looked at the Guardian. Can you help us fight the Council fleets? I can do better than that. I can provide you with the technology your ancestors developed during the war. Technology that the Council has spent 10,000 years trying to prevent from returning. A Guardian raised its hand, and the tower began to change. Sections of the structure rearranged themselves, revealing hidden compartments and mechanisms. From deep within the tower, objects began to emerge. Tony watched in amazement as sleek, silver devices floated toward his team. Each device was about the size of a human hand, covered in the same glowing symbols that marked all the ancient ruins. Personal interface units, the Guardian explained. They will allow you to communicate directly with our technology. But more importantly, they will unlock the potential that has been sleeping in your DNA for 10 millennia. Tony reached out and touched one of the devices. The moment his skin made contact, the world exploded into new sensations. He could feel the tower's systems as if they were part of his own body. He could sense the other facilities across human space, all awakening in response to his touch. "What's happening to me?" he gasped. "You are remembering what your species truly is," the Guardian replied. "The free ones were not just another alien race. We were the first species to develop true symbiosis with our technology. Every free one could interface directly with our machines, our ships, our weapons." Dr. Sarah Kim picked up another device. Her eyes went wide as new knowledge flooded her mind. "I can see the ship designs. I understand how their engines work. This is incredible." Around the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out at every ancient site. Human scientists and engineers were making contact with Guardian programs that had waited thousands of years to pass on their knowledge. On Earth, Commander Nicole Wright stood in the newly constructed command center that had grown from the Antarctic facility. Before her, holographic displays showed the approaching alien fleet in perfect detail. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Bobby Chun from his control station, "we're getting readings on the alien ships that should be impossible. I can see their engine outputs, their weapon charges, even their life support systems." Nicole touched the interface device that now hung around her neck. Immediately, she could perceive the enemy fleet as clearly as if she were standing on their bridges. The ancient technology was providing information in ways that current science could not explain. "Admiral Johnson, this is Commander Wright. I have tactical data on the incoming fleet." Admiral Johnson's voice came through the communication system. "Go ahead, Nicole." "Sir, they have 4,847 ships total. But their technology is primitive compared to what we're interfacing with now. Their weapons are powerful, but slow. Their shields are strong, but inflexible. We can beat them." "How can you be sure?" Nicole smiled as more information flowed through the interface. "Because I'm looking at the complete technical specifications for every ship class they're using. The Guardian systems have detailed files on Council technology going back thousands of years. Across human space, new ships were beginning to take shape. The ancient facilities were not just providing information. They were manufacturing vessels using technologies that the current galaxy had never seen. Captain Jenny Foster stood on the bridge of humanity's first Guardian-class warship. The vessel had been constructed in just 2 days, assembled by machines that built themselves as they worked. The ship's hull was made of materials that seemed to bend light around them. Its engines could fold space in ways that made traditional faster-than-light travel look like walking. "Captain," called her navigation officer, "we're receiving requests for assistance from the Valdorian home system. Their defense fleet is under attack by Council forces." Jenny touched her interface device. Instantly, she could see the battle happening 300 light-years away. Valdorian ships were fighting desperately against a much larger Council fleet. "Set course for the Valdorian system," Jenny ordered. "Maximum speed." Her ship disappeared from Earth's orbit and reappeared in the Valdorian system less than 10 seconds. Later, the Council ships that had been hammering the Valdorian defenses suddenly found themselves facing a vessel that their sensors could barely detect. Jenny's weapons officer, Lieutenant Ray Martinez, grinned as targeting information flowed directly into his mind through the interface. "Ma'am, I have firing solutions on all enemy vessels. Fire at will." The Guardian ship's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, They fired concentrated fields that disrupted matter at the quantum level. Council ships simply came apart, their atomic bonds failing as the weapons passed through them. Not in less than 5 minutes, the entire Council fleet was destroyed or fleeing. The Valdorian commander's face appeared on Jenny's screen, showing amazement and gratitude. Human vessel, this is Admiral Kethfor of the Valdorian Defense Force. How did you? We remembered who we are, Jenny replied simply. Similar battles were happening across the galaxy. Human ships appeared wherever Council forces were attacking minor species. Each time, the outcome was the same. Council fleets that had seemed invincible were being destroyed by technology they could not understand. Back on New Terra, Dr. Tony Blake was learning more about humanity's true heritage from the Guardian. Your ancestors did not just fight the Council militarily, the Guardian explained. They fought them ideologically. The free ones believed that all sentient species deserved freedom. The Council believed that only the strong deserved to rule. What happened to them? To us, I mean. The war lasted 3,000 years. In the end, the free ones were losing. Not because their technology was inferior, but because they refused to use the Council's methods. They would not conquer worlds to save them. They would not force species to join their cause. Tony understood, so they chose the final protocol instead. Yes, they encoded their consciousness, their knowledge, and their technology into genetic. 6 months after humanity walked away from the peace talks, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. President Amanda Foster stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, looking out at ships from over 200 different species. The Liberation Alliance had grown from a desperate hope into the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Ambassador Jake Morrison appeared on the communication screen behind her. He was no longer at Nexus Prime, but at the new Alliance, headquarters on the neutral world of Haven. Madam President, Jake said, the latest reports are in. The Council's authority has collapsed in over 60% of galactic space. 89 species have declared independence in the last month. Alone. Amanda turned from the window. What about the Council's core worlds? They're fortifying. The Zephyrians have pulled all their fleets back to their home systems. The crystalline hegemony is doing the same. They're preparing for siege warfare. Amanda nodded. The Council races had finally realized that their old tactics would not work against an enemy that was not afraid of them. Any word from the moderate factions? The Aquarian Federation has asked for a meeting. They want to discuss terms for joining the Alliance. That was good news. The Aquarians had been the least aggressive of the Council races. If they could be convinced to change sides, it would encourage others to follow. Commander Nicole Wright entered the observation deck. Her uniform now bore the insignia of the Alliance Defense Force, a star surrounded by linking circles representing the unity of free species. President Foster, we've received a priority message from Admiral Kethfor of the Valdorians. Amanda had come to respect the Valdorian admiral. His people had been the first to openly support humanity after Jake's speech at Nexus Prime. What does he say? Long-range sensors have detected something approaching from outside the galaxy. Something big. Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. How big? Nicole activated a holographic display. It showed the edge of the galaxy, where the vast emptiness of intergalactic space began. Moving slowly but steadily toward galactic space was a formation of objects that defied easy description. The objects are roughly the size of small moons, Nicole explained. There are 12 of them, traveling in perfect formation. They'll reach the outer rim in approximately 3 months. Amanda studied the display. The objects did not look like any ships she had ever seen. They were too smooth, too organic. Do we know what they are? Dr. Tony Blake thinks they might be Free One archive ships. Vessels that left the galaxy during the original war, carrying refugees and knowledge to safety. The implications hit Amanda immediately. If he's right, then we're about to make contact with free ones who never went through the final protocol. Free ones who have been alive for 10,000 years. Jake's voice came from the communication screen. There's more, Madam President. The Guardian programs at the ancient sites are all responding to the approaching ships. They're preparing for something they call the Great Awakening. Before Amanda could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Nicole checked her handheld device quickly. We're receiving an emergency transmission from Earth. It's coming from the Antarctic facility. The main screen changed to show Dr. Tony Blake standing in the Guardian control chamber. Behind him, the ancient technology was more active than Amanda had ever seen it. Lights pulsed in complex patterns, and holographic displays showed information in languages she could not read. President Foster, Tony said, his voice filled with excitement and concern. All 17 Guardian sites are synchronizing. They're preparing to send a message beyond the galaxy. A message to whom? To the Eternal Fleet. That's what the archives call the ships that left during the war. The Guardians are telling them it's safe to come home. Amanda felt the weight of history pressing down on her. In a few months, humanity would meet the species they were descended from. Species that had fought the same fight 10,000 years ago. Tony, what else do the archives say about the Eternal Fleet? They carry the complete Free One civilization. Not just ships and technology, but entire worlds. Artificial habitats that contain billions of free ones who have been waiting for the call to return. Amanda looked out at the Alliance fleet again. Ships from hundreds of species, all united in the cause of freedom. Soon they would be joined by the original free ones. Nicole's device beeped again. Madam President, we're receiving communications from across Alliance space. Every Guardian site is active. Every species is reporting the same thing. Which is? The ancient sites aren't just sending messages. They're building something. Construction ships, resource gatherers, manufacturing platforms. It's like they're preparing for the biggest construction project in galactic history. Jake's image reappeared on the screen. Amanda, I'm getting reports from Alliance intelligence. The Council races know about the approaching ships. They're mobilizing everything. They have. How many ships? Conservative estimate? 15,000 vessels. They're calling it the Final Purge. They plan to destroy the Eternal Fleet before it can reach galactic space. Amanda felt anger building in her chest. Even faced with their own descendants, the Council could only think of war and destruction. What's our response capability? Commander Nicole Wright smiled grimly. The Guardian construction programs have been busy. We now have over 3,000 ships using Free One technology. The Alliance member species have contributed another 8,000 vessels, so we're still outnumbered. In ships, yes, but not in capability. The Free One technology is centuries ahead of anything the Council has. Dr. Tony Blake's voice came from the Antarctic facility. There's something else, Madam President. The Guardians have been teaching me about Free One battle doctrine. They don't just build warships. They build weapons that can reshape reality itself. Amanda raised an eyebrow. Explain. Matter converters that can turn asteroids into fleets. Space-folding devices that can move entire star systems. Reality anchors that can lock hostile fleets in place across multiple dimensions. The scale of what Tony was describing was almost beyond comprehension. Amanda had known that the Free Ones were advanced, but this was godlike technology. How long until we can deploy these weapons? Some are already coming online. The construction platforms have been building them while we talked. But the really powerful ones will need the Eternal Fleet to activate. Nicole's device beeped urgently. Priority message from the edge of galactic space. It's from Captain Jenny Foster, aboard the scout ship Pathfinder. Jenny's face appeared on the screen. She looked excited and slightly overwhelmed. "Madam President, I've made contact with the advanced scouts of the Eternal Fleet." Amanda felt her heart race. "And they're definitely free ones, but they've evolved. Over 10,000 years of space travel. They single quotes different, more advanced. And they have a message for humanity." "What do they say?" Jenny looked down at her notes. "They say the time of hiding is over. The time of gradual awakening is over. They're calling for the final liberation, not just of this galaxy, but of all. The galaxies where the Council's influence has spread." Amanda felt the universe grow larger around her. She had thought they were fighting for freedom in one galaxy. Now she learned that the Council's tyranny extended across multiple galaxies. "How long until the main fleet arrives?" 2 weeks. "But Madam President, you need to understand the scale we're talking about. The Eternal Fleet isn't just ships. It's entire civilizations. Millions of species that have been traveling between galaxies for thousands of years. All of them coming home to help us finish this war." Amanda turned back to the observation window. In 2 weeks, everything would change again. The Liberation Alliance would become part of something much larger. The fight for galactic freedom would become a fight for universal freedom. Jake's voice came from the communication screen. "Amanda, there's one more thing. The Alliance Council has voted. They want you to serve as the first president of the liberated galaxy." Amanda laughed despite the serious situation. 6 months ago, she had been worried about re-election in a single country. Now she was being asked to lead an entire galaxy. "I'll consider it," she said. "But first, we have a war to finish." Nicole stepped forward. "Orders, Madam President?" Amanda looked out at the Alliance fleet one more time. In a few hours, those ships would depart for the edge of galactic space. There, they would meet the returning Eternal Fleet and prepare for the final battle against the Council. "Signal all Alliance forces. Operation Homecoming is now active. We're going to meet our ancestors, and together we're going to free this galaxy once and for all." As the Alliance fleet began to move, Amanda thought about the children playing in parks on hundreds of worlds. Children who would grow up in a galaxy where freedom was the rule, not the exception. The free ones were coming home, and they were bringing 10,000 years of preparation for this moment. The Council had ruled through fear for too long. Now they would learn what fear really meant when faced with an enemy that had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The galaxy would be free. And if the free ones were right, it would only be the beginning. Amanda Foster, former president of Earth, future president of the liberated galaxy, smiled as chef.